So hello and welcome. Thank you for having me. Nigel has set a very high bar with his presentation for all the scientific rigor that went to it and a lot of experience he has. So we're going to lower it a bit now. We are going to talk about very similar topics, but from a bit different perspective. By the way, Ljubljana is probably the cleanest city I have ever seen. So thumbs up for that. Really, I have not seen any trash anywhere. So compared to Bratislava, where I come from, that's a different story. So my name is Michal Matlon, and I work with user experience and psychology of architecture at HB Reavis. HB Reavis, if you don't know the company, it doesn't operate here, but it operates in 6 different cities in Europe, like London, Berlin, Warsaw, Budapest, Bratislava, formerly in Prague too. And we are a workspace provider, so what we do is that we build office buildings, design them also, and we build and design the offices inside of it, and then we also operate it, so we kind of do all the stuff together. And we have a user experience department, which I'm a part of, around 15 people, psychologists, sociologists, architects, well-being people, sustainability people, accessibility people, all these kind of hipster, hippie topics which are becoming very popular and very, very much needed today. So why I came to present here today is because I like to talk, but only until I'm exhausted. So then I close myself in the toilet and I refuse to speak to anyone. So let's hope that the energy will last for the next 45 minutes that we have. And thank you for inviting me. So with today's presentations, I have 3 main goals. So the first one is to give you some arguments. So it's also a topic that Nigel touched. How can I talk to my CFO, to financial people, to business people about why we should care about human-focused design? The other one is nice because I can see the reflection of the slides in the glass there, so I don't have to look back, although I have to read backwards. The second point is to suggest a certain way of thinking. I will actually show you a map of the topics that we are solving for when building and designing workplaces. And the third one is to inspire you with some solutions, and specifically solutions from our own office, our new office, where we actually moved a year ago, but it still feels kind of fresh. So we will show you examples of how we applied the topics we're working with in our own office, so maybe you can take some inspiration. And we'll also have a quiz. So then, when the time comes, I will ask you to take out your phones and we'll do some quizzing, where again some of the answers which and the questions which are in the quiz ask about, let's say, specific numbers, but as definitely Nigel knows, in science you never just answer a single number because it's more complicated. There are ranges and so on, but of course for the purposes of the quiz we need a single answer which is kind of close to what is right, but is intended more to kind of make you think about the topics and read up on them. So I would like to start with the first one, and so giving you some arguments. And we'll start with kind of the shift in mindset that we see is needed for how we think about spaces, how we think about offices. And it's basically moving from the seeing space, offices, workplaces as a cost that needs to be reduced, and moving to seeing them as an investment that has certain return on it, return on investment in different ranges, which can range from mild to very high. But if you take into consideration a scale of, let's say, a large company, it's even with the conservative numbers, it begins to look very promising. And this is an example calculated for basically Central European numbers, so yours might be very similar in this region. So this is an example of a company where the cost of space for a single employee with 10 square meters per employee is around 1,800 euro per year. The salary, let's say, is 30,000 euro per year, and the value created by the employee, which ranges from 2 to 8 times the salary, usually here's kind of an average, is 70,000 euro per year. So what a company could do is that they could try to, well, save on these costs. But what happens if we save 10% of 1,800 euro? I'm not very good at math, but I hope I will get that correctly. It's 180 euro of savings, even if we save 10% of that. But what happens if we increase what we could call the productivity of such space only by 2%, which fits within the ranges that also Nigel showed? And suddenly we are earning 1,400 euro more per each employee, which is much higher numbers than what we could save by saving on the costs of the space. And we actually put together from different research in 5 categories of how space can help businesses. And we'll go always from the bottom. So although it's a pyramid, it doesn't mean that it's specifically kind of hierarchical. It kind of just goes from the more specific and physical things into kind of more abstract ones. So the bottom level is that good space can help businesses lower absenteeism and presenteeism, which is basically improving health. The second one is increasing the efficiency of time use, which we could call productivity. The third one is talent attraction and retention, so attracting employees and keeping them, also increasing or helping to increase engagement, also through these, but also through, let's say, showing people that you're investing into the space, engaging them, and so showing them that you care for them actually. And then if we put the whole space into a well-designed, well-created innovation ecosystem, then also increasing your chance for creating or implementing innovative culture, innovative policies in the company. And now we'll look at kind of sample calculations for 3 different examples for these 3 levels. And so the first topic is health. So let's imagine, again, we have an IT company with 200 employees in Central Europe, where the salary is, as we saw in the first example, it will always stay the same, 30,000 euro per year. The value that the employee creates is 70,000 euro per year, so that's around 321 euro per day. An average employee has around 10 days of sick leave per year. So what happens if we manage to improve their health? So they will have less sick leave. Let's say that only 2 days less they will be sick. So what happens now is that these 2 days improvement in sick leave equals 642 euro per year per employee. And let's say that it doesn't all translate into these gains. So even if we assume kind of conservatively only 30% of it, the increased productivity, we would be getting 193 euro per year per employee. And so for 200 employees, it's 38.6 thousand euro per year. And compared to the rent, which we were calculating for 15 euro per square meter, is 1.6 euro per square meter per month with 10 meters per employee. So already only improving or decreasing the sick leave by 2 days per employee would mean that we would be actually getting 1.6 euro per square meter per month, which is already, let's say, 10% of the rent we're paying. And now 10% of rent might not be that a huge number, and this is a conservative estimate, but compare that, and probably maybe many of you have experience with this, when you are negotiating with your clients. So what is the ranges what you're talking about when talking about rent? It's usually like cents, right? So like 10 cents, 20 cents more per square meter, 50 cents more per square meter. Is it going to be 14 euro or 15 euro? But now we can see that basically just by applying kind of principles of the healthy space, you're already talking about much larger ranges for improving, for creating value. Now the second example will be productivity. So again, the same company, 200 employees, 30,000 per year salary, 70,000 euro per year value created. Even 1% increase of productivity, what it will do compared to the rent. So per employee, that would be 700 euro per year more. So for 200 employees, it's 140,000 euro per year. And that translates to 5.8 euro per square meter per month. So already only 1% increase in productivity, although it's a very complex term, we are already getting more than 30% of the rent increase. Okay. Take your pictures, but I can also send you the presentation. And the third example is about talent attraction and retention. And this is more of a specific case that happened to us with one of our clients or potential clients. So we have a company, and basically they were deciding between two offices. For one, they would be paying, let's say, 15 euro per square meter. They decided to save 1 euro per square meter, so they moved into an office which had kind of a lower standard, worse location. So the access was worse, but also the employees were less satisfied with it. And what happens is this was quite a competitive sector where companies were fighting for employees. The employees actually started leaving because they disliked the office and the location. So what happened is that they started leaving for a company with higher standard offices, which paid 15 euro per square meter. And the company, the original company, had to actually increase people's salaries by 200 euro per month to keep people going to this new office. So instead of paying 10 euro for each employee a month, they had to pay 200. So they lost 190 square meters, which translates to 19 euro per square meter per month, which is more than the whole rent. So actually, by deciding to go for a worse office, they lost much more than if they actually had like they were paying like for 2 offices instead of 1, and even more. Okay. So these are 3 examples, and of course you can do your own calculations, but this is a way that you can think about these things, and which you can use with your own company to argue maybe if you're moving why your company should invest in this or your clients' companies. And now we're coming to the second part. The second part is about to show you how we think about it and how we applied these topics in our new office. And we called it bubbles. So we have kind of a library or a map of topics, which kind of, when you know about them, you know what you need to design the space for. It's also inspired by the WELL certification, but it has also other topics beyond just health, but also related to productivity, talent attraction, and all these levels of the pyramid that you saw. So we have 18 of them. I will not go into depth with each of them, but we'll just kind of shortly have kind of a look. So they are divided into these levels of the pyramid that you saw, but that doesn't mean that really it only kind of applies to that level. So let's say improving light or creating biophilic designs doesn't mean that it only improves health. It's there more for kind of visual clarity. So if we start with this lowest level, we have water quality. This is not something that we usually have to take into consideration in our regions, but there might be regions where you need to think about that. Air quality, again, so levels of CO2, levels of VOC, and many others, perceived air quality, light, providing natural light, but also providing high quality artificial lighting, biophilic design. This is a topic which is very close to me. So that means using natural elements and natural patterns in order to increase people's well-being, decrease stress, increase mental performance, and make people feel better. Active design, or just making people move more, basically. Relaxation, so even if you go to the gym, you cannot go there every day. You have to have rest between that. Brain works similarly. It needs to have rest in order to have good performance, so we need to provide for that. I think there's a growing movement today of kind of saying that people should leave work in the same relaxed state they came into it. Then thermal comfort, audio comfort, again, noise levels, perceived noise, but also privacy, acoustic privacy. Functional comfort, so this is a category where we put basically not only the ergonomy, okay, so just having equipment and spaces that fit your body and your mind, but also providing different spaces that support different activities. Eating experience, then we are moving into the kind of talent attraction field. So actually food is very important also for kind of people satisfaction, and also in many surveys regarding benefits and employee benefits, food is one of the most appreciated ones. Then providing for flexibility in the workspace, so these are topics like choice and control. These are quite important, having the freedom to choose your work environment, but also work time, who you are working with. Also providing opportunities for leisure and fun, family support, work-life balance, so taking care of children, for example. And then when we're climbing up the ladder, there's an interaction supporting workspace. So this is also quite a popular topic today, how to increase high-quality interactions, providing art and inspiration, especially where we need to improve kind of creativity, but it can also have restorative effects on people. Activate the communities in the buildings and around them to kind of help people create these relationships which they value and which help them kind of create also connection with the company. And then kind of the most abstract ones, so also create innovation ecosystems, but that usually doesn't happen only within a single company, but it requires a mixture of different kinds of organizations, not just sizes, but also mixing corporate with academics, with startups, with NGOs, and so on. And then also kind of helping with personal development, not just through space, but also through services and culture and management within the company. And so now we are going to take a look at how these topics were applied in our new office. So this is going to become more of a kind of a case. When it comes to post-occupancy, this is something that we are finishing right now. So some of my colleagues already have the results. Unfortunately, I don't have them here, but I'm very, very curious of how that worked out. Before building this new office, which we built in Bratislava, it's our headquarters, but also our Slovak branch combined. We've done a lot of different analysis and engagement with the employees. So we used surveys, we used interviews, workshops, we did measurements, for example, of the use of meeting rooms, of desks, and so on. And based on that, we created a brief for the architects. We worked with Gensler and also with a consultancy called the Living Core from Vienna, who helped us create the space, but also the change management. As Nigel said, the change management is very important with these projects, especially when there's kind of a larger change in how the space works, moving into a new different types of offices. So we put a lot of energy into change management, which lasted basically for half a year quite intensely, and then also it continues now in a kind of long-term form, and the post-occupancy survey, and then also communicating the results to employees, that's a part of that definitely. So this is the project we moved into. We are specifically here. It's a whole new zone in Bratislava, which is very close to the city center. Basically, the city center starts here, the historical one, and the whole district here before was kind of an industrial district, and it was all rebuilt by different companies. Now there's even more high-rises here being built. So we moved into a new office. It's on 3 floors. It includes not only our office, which is in blue, but also a co-working called Hub, an event space, which works for our own events, but also for clients and other companies, and also a bistro. So this all combined lies on the 3 floors, and now we're going to look into specific examples. We'll take selected bubbles that you've seen in the apartment, and we're going to see what kind of features are related to these bubbles in the new space. And here's where we are going also to have a quiz. So I want you to open this website. It's called kahoot.it. Don't worry, it's not in Italian, although probably some of you speak Italian here, right? Because it's quite close. So you can connect either on your phone or even your computer. And when you open the website, enter this number. There are going to be 7 questions, but not in a row, but kind of through the rest of the presentation. And you can win also some very extremely valuable prizes, kind of to motivate you. And then you can see them down here. It's all well-being and sustainability related, the prizes, not the questions. So, quite a lot of people, nice. Yeah, as you probably noticed, you can select your own name, so you can be fully anonymous until you win something, then you will have to identify yourself if you want to get your prize. 40, oh, 50, I've never had such a huge quiz, 51 people. Alright, 57. Is someone still connecting? Yeah? Okay. 66. Can we go higher? 67. Yes. 68. To the moon. If we build a tower of your names, we will be probably reaching 2nd floor by now. Okay, so this seems like 7. Is everyone connected? Who wants to be connected? Okay, it seems that yes, 76. So we stabilized. So I will also always show you a question, and then we'll talk about the topic. So first we'll see how well we know the topic beforehand. And the first question is going to be about air. And you will see it also in the quiz, but just to kind of not stress you out, you will also be able to read it always beforehand. So the first question is, what are the levels of indoor CO2? And this was a recent meta-analysis where research has shown adverse health effects. It will be in parts per million. So if you have a sensor that measures it, what's the level you need to get in order to get sick? Oh, 81 actually. 82. Is it, you can't decide? One person? You need help? Okay, 82. Let's go. So, what are the levels of indoor CO2 which are becoming unhealthy? And you vote on your device. You can see the options here. So it's 800, 1,300, or 1,000 parts per million. You always have 20 seconds to answer. Okay. So this was not an easy question if you don't know the number, right? They're quite close to each other. But basically, if you have a CO2 sensor, and I encourage you to get at least one for your office, then if you start seeing numbers 1,000 parts per million, then you should start getting worried, or just open the window, or talk to your landlord. If it's yourself, then perhaps improve your ventilation rates, because CO2 is a very good indicator of air freshness, basically. And what we can see is that if CO2 starts getting above certain numbers, and this is a problem with many companies, even in in open spaces, but usually even bigger. I'm sorry. This poses even a bigger problem in very kind of tight, closed spaces like meeting rooms or focus rooms. So then you should really think about that, because what it can do, for example, many times you might have already experienced it when you're in a meeting room, the window has not been open for a long time, or the ventilation doesn't work that well, you start getting sleepy, maybe you get a headache. This is all often the effects not only of boring meetings, but also of bad air. And now we'll look at the results for now. So these are the first 5 places. You still have time to improve. And so what we did in our office is 3 main things. The first one is that we put an kind of outside meteorological station on the building, so we can always monitor how fresh or how clean is the air outside. And what it does then is that on these tablets, which are in each of the spaces where you can control the space, it can also notify you, for example, if the CO2 levels are too high, then you can open the window. But it can also inform you that the space outside, the air outside, is too polluted, so we shouldn't open the window. And there are many other warnings like that. For example, when the air is too hot outside and the difference between temperatures is too high, it will tell you, well, do not open the window because the space outside is too hot and you might get uncomfortable. But then also, our system works with CO2 sensors spread through the whole space, so it's in each meeting room, in each kind of team home base, we have a sensor, and it measures CO2. When the CO2 starts getting above certain numbers, then there's kind of this turbo mode in the ventilation, and it starts pumping more fresh air into the room. Oh, I should be waking up. That's my alarm. I hate it. And also, so this works automatically. And then also we have, of course, when choosing furniture, also thanks to Applying Well certification, which is actually very nice, because if you select any certification like this, then you only need a single kind of confirmation from the management that yes, we are going to do it. But it covers just so many things. I think they have around more than 100 or 150 different kind of requirements of what you need to meet to get the certification. So you don't need to convince your management or the client to confirm every one of them. You just make them confirm or accept the certification, and then you're covered for all the well-being related topics. I'm also not sponsored. So low VOC materials when choosing the furniture. If you don't know what VOC is, it's the volatile organic compounds, kind of unhealthy compounds in the air that often come from glues in the furniture, or when you buy a new carpet, is the smell of the fresh carpet that we all like so much, but it's killing you. But I like carpets. So many, but you can pick furniture based on, let's say, certifications they have for low VOC. Another question, and we'll be showing you biophilia. But first we'll ask you about which of these that you will see for things does not belong under the concept of biophilia. So also keep your devices then kind of powered up for the next question. So, is it use of natural materials, presence of water, space evoking risk, or moldy sandwich left in the drawer? Okay, so not everyone voted for the moldy sandwich. Yes, so moldy sandwich left in the drawer, let's say, is now a part of biophilic design. Although, of course, we should be inclusive, accept all life forms, but ideally not those which are harming us. So, for example, moldy sandwich would be one example, but then snakes or spiders might be some other examples. But basically, as I said, biophilia is a very interesting concept. I encourage you to look into it. It's a concept of using nature, natural principles, natural materials, natural elements like water, but also more abstract categories such as creating opportunities for people to go through different ranges of emotions in a controlled way. So, for example, creating spaces which evoke feelings of risk or mystery and others. So we'll see. Oh, someone jumped to the top.
That's what I heard.
And this is what we did in our office. Although it could be more biophilic, there's still opportunities. We decided to kind of maximize the amount of plants. That's always the kind of first and the easiest solution, although there are many other. We've maximized the use of natural materials. Now I'm thinking maybe the light that I suggested here at the front might not be the best idea for the picture, so could we maybe try turning it off? And I'm not looking if we want the pictures to be nice. Okay, is it better?
Yeah.
Ah, okay, good. I didn't want you to fall asleep, so I want to increase the light. So we decided to maximize natural materials. We used a lot of them for floors, for example, for wood flooring, but also as acoustic wood for walls. We created an internal terrace with a lot of greenery, not just on it, but also you can see another kind of green area from it. Another part of biophilia, for example, is creating different light atmospheres. So not just putting a kind of single monotonous type of lighting through all the space, but giving people choice, again, to move to a different area where the light is more atmospheric or intimate, to also simulate the conditions which you would meet in nature, where you can go into the shade, or you can be on the sun, or you can be in an area where the light is coming through the canopies of the trees. And also we use different biomorphic shapes, so that's kind of simulated the shapes and the geometries that you can see in nature. What we did, and you will see that probably in the pictures on another slide, is that we utilize kind of rounded corners, whether glass that gets quite expensive, or just wall covered with this acoustic wood. So when you walk through the corridor, the shapes that you're encountering are kind of nice and fluid. And here we have another question. So, this one's going to be about active design. What do you think? How much moderate activity people need daily to counterbalance the risks of sedentary lifestyle? This was also quite recent number. So, is it 60 minutes, 90 minutes, or 20 minutes daily? So the correct number here is 60 minutes. That's actually quite a lot. So maybe you should think about having a less sedentary lifestyle, then you won't have to exercise that much. But yes, we can see many findings like that, which show us how sitting is unhealthy. But then the issue is that also standing is unhealthy. So everything becomes unhealthy, and we just need to change it, right? We need to have this flexibility: sit, then stand, then walk. Have a walking meeting. Have a jumping meeting. So what is the order now? It's very dynamic, very agile, changes all the time. So what we did in our office, we did quite a lot. The first one is that we, not only for active design purposes, we created internal staircases, 2 of them. And actually the one staircase, which is this one, is kind of a main staircase that goes through all the 3 floors in a way that you can enter the building, and without any barriers, you can walk up the stairs and enter your office or your home base or the meeting room, because there is no door. We are testing a face recognition technology, so we just kind of walk through it, and if it recognizes you, there's no problem, nothing stops you, there's no barrier. And what we thought, well, okay, so we're going to build a staircase. Before, in the old office, most people were using the elevators, because the only staircase we had was a kind of a fire escape staircase. And we thought, okay, we're going to build a nice staircase. We also did some research about how to build good staircases that people will want to use, and to make it comfortable, attractive, large, central, with as few barriers as possible. And there are 400 people working in the office on most days, or a little below 400. Some people are at the construction site and so on. And actually, the staircase is used more than 500 times a day. So yeah, some people will use it multiple times. We cannot distinguish that, but it's used quite heavily. So just by building a good staircase in a good location with good design, you can really support this. And this already adds quite a lot to how much people walk or exercise during the day. Okay, so there's this slide. The slide was a personal wish of the CEO, and to be honest, mostly visitors use it. And I think that's the case in most of the companies. I have a friend working in Google in Zurich, just for visitors basically, so none of the employees use them. But although it's a kind of nice design feature, sometimes I use it maybe once a month, but it's also something that we can count towards activity-based design. It requires some effort. Then what we did is that we centralized the kitchen, or kitchenette, although we don't call it kitchenette anymore because it's quite large. In the old office, I think we had 6 kitchenettes, and there were people who just came to work every day, and they sat in their office, they went to the bathroom, and then they went for a coffee to the nearest kitchenette, which was like 10, 20 steps away. But now we centralized that, so it will have benefits also for the interactions that we're going to talk about, but it also has the benefit that they have to walk. Since, as you can see, the whole floor was in the triangle, okay, so it's in the center, you have to walk there. Sometimes I make like 10,000 steps just in walking in the office. Then what we did is we put all the kind of useful features or the utilities near the pathways, so all the printers or water fountains you have on the corridors. So again, you need to walk to the nearest one, and you can walk around while doing that. You can also have a walking meeting while walking around the office. We also provided everyone with standing desks, electrically adjustable, so that you can choose whether to stand, sit. Again, this is, I think, also a kind of a controversial topic because it depends a lot on company culture and change management, right? So not that many people use them, but in our case, the decision was quite simple because we found ones were kind of a similar price to the ordinary desks, so we didn't have to think too much. Then we installed these pull-up bars through the whole space. And so sometimes when you walk around the space and you find a home base of a certain department, They have already an Excel sheet printed out where they are recording their own records of how long who hanged on the bar or how many pull-ups they did. So this is something that people actually use because it's kind of quick. And then also we created this exercise room or relax room where we are providing the employees with free yoga trainings, functional training, healthy back trainings, and this is very popular. I use it too because, well, it's free, it's during work hours, and I can joke around with my colleagues who are doing some boring exercises that normally I wouldn't do alone. So now we're coming to another level, and this is the relaxation bubble that I mentioned. So this is a lot about culture, of course. If you create spaces for relaxation, for relax, for rejuvenation, if you don't do your change management, if you don't also change the culture, people might be still afraid to use them. And this is also what happens in our company with some departments. Because we're an integrated company, we have around 25 different departments. So it's like lawyers, construction, accountants, designers, architects, marketers, HR people, psychologists, salespeople, and so on. So everyone is different. They have different cultures, different managers. So some people report that they actually are using those less because the culture in their department is different. That's why the change management is so important. So we have created a nap room with a bed where you can sleep. Then we created the relax room or the exercise room with the yoga exercises, a massage room where we are providing free massages to the employees, although usually it's booked like 1 month up front, so you have to think in the long term. Then there's such thing as a music room. So it's actually one of the, you can see it on the right hand side, it's actually one of the few rooms in the space where you can close yourself visually with a curtain. So it's quite popular because overall the office is quite open. So people like it for that reason, but you can also play your own music from a Bluetooth speaker there. There are even some guitars, people are quite like it. And there's also a library which is used mostly for focused work, but it's a quiet space on a style based on the university library where people sit behind a large desk. But we also have these screens or paravans between people for even like improved visual privacy. And we are coming to another question. And this question is, what kind of sound was found to be most distracting to workers? So, was it air conditioning noise, ambient music, human speech, or printer noises? And it was human speech. So this is also when people usually complain in the office. This is what they complain about most often, because the brain is wired in this way that human speech especially is very important to pay attention to, because also in the good old times when we were hunters and gatherers, it was very important to catch any information that all the other people around us might have that they were talking about, because maybe they were talking about where is the tiger hiding, where it will eat us, or where is a nearest food source. So this is something that usually we also subconsciously pay the most attention to, and it's also similar to the topic of visual privacy or visual noise, where people most often complain about people passing by them when they're trying to focus, because they automatically shift their attention to, okay, who's there? Is it the danger? Is it my boss coming to fire me? By the way, in the library, your boss cannot fire you, because they cannot talk there. It's always changing. Always changing. Nigel. So what we did with sound privacy, or audio comfort, we created quiet zones. So we created 19 focus rooms like this, just double glazed, you're well sound insulated. And what we found is very important for these zones is to actually provide the full ergonomy of an ergonomic workplace. So although people often like also to change posture, to maybe sit in a different setting, if you really want to focus for a long time when you're creating something, writing something, you're there for multiple hours, then people will really appreciate the kind of full ergonomy, the large monitor, the keyboard, where they can plug their computer and work for extended periods of time. Then also, although we have an open ceiling in this space, and you can see all the technologies, all the HVAC and so on, you cannot see the concrete above it, but we have put an acoustic foam on it, which absorbs 90% of all sounds. So you can have the benefits of an open ceiling if someone likes it, or if it's the design you're going for, but then also it can be acoustically well designed. Then also, and this is also thanks to or inspired by a WELL certification, we have covered more than 25% of walls with acoustic materials, whether it's acoustic foam covered by kind of colorful fabric or acoustic wood. And we have also created these furniture dividers which combine different functions, such as the acoustic wood, also with storage and greenery or the biophilia on top of it. And here we have another question. And the question is actually derived from data from Leesman, from the very same report that Nigel was mentioning. Because what they did, it was the slide with the kind of different profiles of mobility or number of different activities people do at work. And they put them into these categories, and they noticed that for categories where people don't really have too many of these activities, so they're, for example, doing a single activity or two main activities and they're not moving around too much, then it makes sense that they will probably not utilize the variety of spaces. And they have also put a number on it, and we are now asking you for the number. So what is the number of people which can properly benefit of activity-based workspace, of this variety of spaces? So it's either 29%, 85%, 60%, or 72%. And in this case, Leesman says that it's around 29% of people. So this is not only about the objective nature of people's work, but it can be also about culture, of course. So they surveyed what is kind of the current state. And so we can see that for the activity-based workplace, or for the workplace with a large choice of spaces, of course, people with more activities, with more mobility, will use it more, and this is kind of a current state of the whole industry. And we can, of course, increase it. We can increase it not for everyone, but we can increase it by using the right technology, for example, like switching the kind of very basics of switching from stationary computers to laptops that people can plug in everywhere, or by changing the culture and the management. So let's look at this. Oh, there's even a combo breaker. And then we're coming to the, I just want to ask about time. Am I fine? Yes? Okay, so I'm going to the review. So functional comfort, we have created over 25 different space types in the space. So, such as these focus rooms, library, meeting rooms, small, large, formal, informal, social spaces, and so on. I already mentioned the face security and face recognition security at the staircase. We also improved navigation and kind of zone or department identity by creating 5 different color zones of the space. Then we also created a navigational system which is fully digital, where you can see a 3D map, an exact copy of the space as a model where you can find all the spaces, meeting rooms, and also their status, so whether they're free, occupied. You can also see data from the environmental sensors, where the air is the best, the worst, the hottest, the coldest, and you can choose the place to work based on that. And also provided people with lockers. Although we have, for 90% of people, assigned desks, we also provided them with these lockers for their personal stuff. And we are moving on. Eating experience. So we are now kind of finding ourselves in the category of talent attraction and retention, where, well, food is quite important. So we have created a bistro, which is actually open to the public. So even for the category, for the bubble of innovation ecosystems, it's quite important to have contact with the public, to kind of engage them in your process, in your culture, so they can come have food, we can communicate with them. We also created a large kitchen, centralized, as I already mentioned, and also a dedicated eating area. So before, people were eating in these small kitchenettes. Now we have a large, nice, airy, well-lit area. People really like to use it. They not only bring their lunch there, but they also use it for informal meetings, team meetings, and celebration. And we also have these bring and share breakfast, where people bring their food and share, and then other people think about how to bring less than others and take more. Okay, and this is one of the last questions. So, employees perform best when? It's kind of a mysterious question. The second to last. So, employees perform best when there's nothing on their desk, the company places decoration on their desk, they can decorate their desk themselves, or they have no desk. And this is a question about personalization, okay? So what level of personalization was found to, yes, most of you guessed correctly. So we don't have time to go deep into that, but another topic which is very important for people is personalization. So the ability to put their own identity, their own personality into the space, and this can be done both with assigned desks, which is the most kind of straightforward, but even if you don't have assigned desks, you can find alternatives for that, for example, on the team level, on the neighborhood level. But the worst thing you can do is try to remove personality and personalization from the space, like some companies. I mostly found it in like larger corporations, banks, and other institutions which try to keep everything clean, empty, free, white, and gray. So that's not very good. These are results. So brace for the last question then. You have the last chance to move in the results. And now we're at the category of flexible workspace. So giving people choice, control, flexibility. I already mentioned these tablets where you can control the space. So here basically we are applying this kind of vigilant democracy where anyone can come to the tablet, change it, and then they can argue with all the other people about the temperature. But what is interesting, we are actually not encountering this. So people very seldom argue. I have never seen actually argue anyone about the temperature after the first month or two after moving. So someone says, oh, I'm cold, they just change it, and kind of everyone accepts it most of the time. Then there's this connect everywhere principle, so having my laptop, being able to connect in any of these spaces. Then we have a dedicated office experience team, which not only cares for kind of problems and issues, they collect feedback that they improve the office, but they also organize programming, community events such as these breakfasts. And also we have created a space which is called a value creation space for a very specific reason, because It plays an important role in our value creation process, but it's also a space where kind of it's let's say it's this large, and it's a meeting, workshop, collaboration space where everything is on wheels, everything is movable. You have chairs, you have these kind of little cubes, you have desks, you have TVs on the wheels. You have these paravents, writable, magnetic, pinnable, acoustic, and so on, where really every week you go there, you can see a different setup. Then community activation, as I already mentioned. So since we not only have our own offices there, but also the co-working, the space is very focusing on this one. So with the public bistro access, with having the co-working there, where startuppers can intermingle with corporate people, having the event space, but also activating our lobby. So a lot of these office lobbies are often very empty, silent, no one dares to say a word there. So we actually wanted to make a lively space. We put a table football there, which is actually nice because many companies put these table footballs in their offices. Not many people use it. If you put it in the lobby, all the companies can use it, so it actually gets used because it's shared. We are also renting e-scooters there. We are having art exhibitions and concierge services. We also have a phone app which allows you to see the events, the daily menu at the restaurants, and so on. And we are also organizing free sport clubs, so where people can form and form communities around their interests or different sports. And this is the last question. So this is about collaboration. And there's a certain indicated distance. And when people work this distance far from each other, their kind of collaboration or communication rates decrease quite dramatically. So how far is it after which people lose the communication? So is it 20 meters, 50 meters, or 100 meters? This is your last chance. Okay, and in this case, it's 50 meters. It's called an Allen curve, and although the original study is a bit older, it was at the MIT. The population were basically engineers and scientists working there. What is interesting is that even when these studies were done later, it was found that this number still worked not just for face-to-face interaction, but also for digital interaction. But then, of course, it's a relationship, it's not a causation. So, it can be that actually people who work less together, they sit farther from each other, and the other way around. But still, what we have found in many companies, many of our clients, is that many companies still don't think about how the departments should be located near each other, around each other, in order to put those who really needs to work together close together. We had many clients where we had to reshuffle the whole office just because they didn't think about this. And now, before we see the final results, we'll have the last bubble, and it is the interaction supporting workplace. So what we did here is that we used smart building system with kind of indoor positioning system to map the interaction between departments. So we have a badge, it sees where you go, but there's only kind of this information about what department you're from if you don't register. And so we can see what departments interact well. We use these writable boards on the corridors, so not only you can use it spontaneously when you start talking to someone, but also you can see what the departments are working on. We have put these open meeting booths near the pathways, so when you start talking spontaneously to someone on the corridor, you immediately have a space to move into, which is quite important. We put everyone on the single floor, so although technically our office is on 2 floors, the first floor is kind of a guest area, so everyone sits on a single floor, there's no vertical barrier. I mentioned the interior staircases, and the single centralized coffee and dining zone is also something that works well for making people intermingle, meeting with each other and decreasing silos. And so, let's look at the results of the quiz. So, first place, Sarah. Congratulations. Please identify yourself. Can you come here? Congratulations. Beware, my hand is very cold. Congratulations. And you can pick a prize. So it's either a sustainable, healthy water bottle or solar phone charger. Yeah. Congratulations. Second place, Nash. Congratulations. That corner is very strong. Congratulations. Yes, I can hand it to you. Okay, and the third place, Nigel. Congratulations.
Quick questions in there.
Yes. Okay, so the last thing I would like to do is to invite you for a tour of our office. If you are around Bratislava, we're always kind of open to give a tour to anyone. Just let us know beforehand, and it lasts for an hour and a half if you want the full experience. So it's like a museum.
Per floor.
Sorry?
Per floor.
Per floor, no, the whole space. And if you want to stay in touch, then you can follow me on LinkedIn or Instagram, whether you want pictures or words, depends on you. Thank you.